Okay guys, it's been a little while since I did a video, but I've actually got a few that I'm going to be working on coming up. And today we want to talk about the AK-101 from Palmetto State Armory. This one is a 2020, late 2023 model, I believe, just coming into 2024 because it's just after the new year now. I just want to kind of give you guys a first impression. So let me go ahead and premise this by saying, don't think that because I'm going to give it high reviews on fit and finish, which I will, that means that it's going to be a reliable, long-term quality firearm. We don't know that yet. Fit and finish is just one part of that. There are some issues that these have had in the past with at least some owners, which I want to watch carefully on this one as we start to fire it. But I will tell you, I have not put a single round through this. So if you're looking for, you know, a Rob Ski 5,000 round review from me, I just can't give that to you. Not on this rifle, and I may not ever be able to give it to you because I won't put a lot of rounds through this particular one. But I can give you guys an idea. If you're purchasing one as an occasional shooter, then I can show you what you can probably expect right out of the box. So there are two versions of the AK-101 from Palmetto State Armory. Some of you may not know this. I know some of you don't because I've interacted with some of you on social media and you didn't realize that you had one different from this. So this one essentially is built on the AK-74 loosely put platform. It's got the 90-degree gas block. It's got the bayonet lug on the front sight base. This lug becomes an accessory lug for mounting a grenade launcher. It's got the large muzzle brake and large muzzle brake threads and collar on the front. And there are some other minor differences as well. There is also an AK-101, which is built on the AKM platform. And it's going to have a 45-degree gas block. It's going to have a different thread pitch on the barrel, a smaller thread pitch. I think it's 1/2 by 28. I think they thread that to US threads on that particular rifle. So some of the parts are interchangeable and some of the parts are the same, but some are not. And they're just two different models. So if you're looking at purchasing one from Palmetto State Armory, just be aware that sometimes the price difference between two that look the same is because one is an AK-101, one is what they call an AK-101, which is roughly built on the 74 platform. That's what we've got here, the 74. So this is a black furniture model. They come with different color furniture. You can get plum, tan, olive green, different types of wood. We went the basic black here. And so let's just tell you what initially get in the box. You've got a trigger lock or I guess an action lock, and then there's a chamber flag. It comes in a cardboard box that's padded with like this eggshell crate material. You guys know the foam that I'm talking about. And then it's in a plastic bag. And it's in a plastic bag because it's absolutely coated in oil. It looks like they took a cup of motor oil and just threw in the bag. Absolutely soaked. This is something that my FFL guy mentioned at first. That's not a bad thing. It's good for us on the receiving end. Just know that you're going to need to really wipe it down well to get all that oil off of it before you start handling it. And this one I've already wiped down. I've already taken this one apart, done a field strip, and looked at it so that I'll know what I'm going to be telling you guys in this video. But we'll do that again for your information. So a few things that I was pleasantly surprised with right off the bat. One is it comes with one of these magazines. This is the Palmetto State Armory magazine that they are now producing or having produced for them. And this is like in their Soviet line, I think it's called. And you can see it's got their little kind of Soviet marking that they're putting on these now. This one's marked 545. Or I'm sorry, 556 by 45, which is exactly what you want for this rifle because it's a 556 rifle. I'm not sure if I told you that before, but that's what the 101 is. It's a 556 AK. You can use AK-74 mags in these, but you need to replace the follower. So one of the really cool things that Palmetto State Armory is doing is they're producing a 556 magazine that for all intents and purposes looks like an AK-74 mag. They did a pretty good job of copying it. It's not going to fool anybody as being an original, but it looks good. It's got a metal, steel locking lug on the back. The front lug is plastic. And the feed lips are plastic. I don't think there's any steel in there. And the follower's plastic. But at about $20 a mag, this is probably a pretty good option for a fun little range mag. So anyway, super happy about that because I know some of the ones in the past had shipped with the AC Unity mags. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but these I think look a lot better, and I'm happy to have gotten one. The second thing I was pleasantly surprised with, cleaning rod. It came with one. I know a lot of guys are just, they throw fits on the internet because it doesn't come with a cleaning rod, and I get it. Cleaning rod from any military com block countries, $10 all day long. You can get them, no problem. There's no shortage of them. But Palmetto State Army has had a hard time getting them with some of their rifles for whatever reason. This one came with one, so that's a good thing, and I'm pretty happy with it. Let's, I guess from forward to aft, let's kind of look at what we've got going on. We got a muzzle brake. Now this finish on the rifle, I can't find a flaw in it. It's perfect. Externally speaking, it's perfect. I don't know if this, what this finish is, and I don't know if Palmetto is telling us what the finish is, but it is some type of baked on coating, sprayed on coating, similar to Cerakote, but it's probably not Cerakote. I don't know. But it looks really good, and it looks like what you would see sort of like with a paint over part finish on some of the Russian rifles that are out there. So they did a good job sort of, I don't know, copying that or representing that. So we get a muzzle brake on the front. This has got the, it's got the big threads. Everything fits really well. I didn't have any issues with it. It should be able to take standard Russian muzzle brakes because of the thread pitch. A few differences you've got from the original Russian rifles is that's not chrome lined. I'm not sure if you can see down in there, probably not. It's pretty dark. Let's see if I can get a flashlight on that for you guys. I don't know if you can see down in there, but you can notice that the finish was sprayed and it didn't get all the way down in there. There's some bare steel in there. Not sure if you can see that, but just take my word for it. The same thing is true for the gas block. So when you're cleaning these, keep in mind, you're not going to have corrosion protection in the gas block or in the muzzle brake. So you're going to want to pay special attention to that to make sure that you clean it. Also, the barrel is not chrome lined. It is a melanated barrel, so that's better than nothing. You know me, I still prefer chrome lining, especially in the chamber, but it's a melanated barrel, so there is some protection, some corrosion treatment there. And the barrel is a 1-in-7 twist. We mentioned we have a bayonet lug on the front sight base. Let's bring this up so you guys can have a look at the front sight base. Everything looks clean. There's not a speck of rust anywhere on the rifle. I did punch the bore with a cleaning patch just to see, because I've seen some barrels from other companies that sometimes have some frosting of rust inside. This one did not. No rust at all, but it had been fired. It was dirty. The barrel was dirty. The gas tube was dirty, and you could see on the bolt face that the rifle had been test fired from Palmetto State Army. That's a good thing. I want to make sure that works. Let's, plastic looks good. There's really nothing to be said about it. Just kind of standard 74 plastic. The lower handguard does have a heat shield. The upper handguard does not. That's pretty typical. Black pistol grip. It's got a regular flat head screw in the bottom. Stock. I'm sure it's US made furniture, but it looks good. It's got a hole in the butt plate for a cleaning kit, and a cleaning kit will fit there, although it doesn't come with one. And a sling swivel on the side. These screws that are holding this together are like hex head screws. I'm not in love with those because I'm a bit of a purist. I wish they were flat tip screws, but that's what we've got on this. And for most of you, you're not going to care. It's going to be just fine. Also, the screws holding the stock into the rear tang is going to be a Phillips head. Also looks good. It's just not my cup of tea. You can see it's got matching numbers. The bolt's serialized. The trunnion is serialized, and it's got that cool little marking, that the Soviet theme marking that Palmetto State is putting on these rifles. And of course, the markings are on the bottom. And I love this. I'm so glad they did this. This looks so much better than having those billboards on the side that tell you, hey, read your instruction manual, don't shoot yourself in the face, blah, 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 blah. All this billboard stuff across the sides, it doesn't have that. Let's look at these markings. So there's two Russian markings here you can see. This is pretty cool. I've tried this out. So we're in the safe position now. This on a full auto gun would be full auto. Then all the way down would be semi-auto. Well, it'll fire semi-auto on either setting. So that's pretty cool. And look at those markings. We've got the 2 markings for full auto and semi-auto. But one of the interesting things is that they're different. The font's different. I don't know if you guys can see that. I can hit it with a little bit of light maybe also. But the AB is in one font and the OA is in another. It's almost like it was stamped AB and then laser engraved OA. Not a big deal, not a deal breaker for me at all. I just thought that was interesting and I thought I would point it out. Selector's got a larger shelf on the side here, and that larger shelf makes it really easy just to grab and just to put the safety on and off. You can tell that they tweak this safety to get it to feel well and to work well. Because you can see a little bend in it right here. It's almost like they put in a vise to bend it to adjust the tension. And I wish they hadn't have done that, because you can see a little crease. Not sure if you can see that on camera, but there's a little crease in the selector right there. It doesn't look bad. You guys probably wouldn't even notice it. It's just one of the things that I noticed when I was goofing around with it. And you know, if Palmetto State Armory happens to come across this video and they're looking for very minor things, and I'm nitpicking, that they can fix, that's one of them. Another minor thing, this cleaning rod. So I mentioned it came with the cleaning rod. Oh, that's great. We're super happy about that. Cleaning rod comes out, no problem, and looks good. Everything looks fine. But there's something about it. When we go to put it back in, it doesn't line up quite right. And I have a really hard time getting it to go in where it's supposed to go. When this muzzle brake is on, went in easier that time, it seems to hit, it's hitting down here somewhere. I don't know if the handguard is a little misaligned, the hole in the handguard, or if it's hitting somewhere on the receiver itself, but it's hard for me to get it to go in exactly like it needed to. So anyway, that's something that, I don't know if it's just a one-off for the one that I've got, or if it's one that, if it's an actual problem and everybody else is having that problem. Again, I'm nitpicking. This is not a big deal. I was able to get it in, no problem, but something to just be aware of for Palmetto to maybe pay attention to. I don't know if it's going to get better over time. I'm actually going to replace this furniture with some Russian furniture. Yeah, see, I can't get it in, guys. I can't get it. I cannot get it in. Cannot get that cleaning rod in. It is hitting something right there, and it's not going in. And I can take a pin and pull this and push it, and I can get it to go in, but right now it won't go in. That's a little bit frustrating. Maybe it's just on this one rifle. Maybe when I change out the handguard with original Soviet stuff, it'll get better. I don't know. We'll come back and revisit that in the future. Not a deal breaker. I'm sure it's an easy fix when I get in here and look and see what it's actually hitting, but it's hitting something inside here and it's not quite lining up right. One of the differences I noticed between a real 7.4 or 101 versus this one is the mag release. It's a narrow mag release, but it's not dimpled. Not a deal breaker. I knew what I was getting when I'm buying an American AK. It's not going to be an exact clone, but just know that it's just a regular flat, kind of late AKM style mag release. It does fit perfect with this mag though. I mean, look at that. Just butter. Comes out just as easy. No problem, no hang-ups. Just butter, fits perfect. So that's good, because a lot of times with these that you get, from other combat countries, they take some fitting and you have to grind on them and adjust them, and people say take a hammer to them. And not on this one. This one's perfect. So let's now what am I overlooking here? Sights are in marked. That's kind of cool. Not sure if you can see that, but it's in marked down here for your battle sight 0, and then good marks go all the way up to 1,000 meters. Everything works good. Slide works well. Exactly what you would expect. Not color filled. That's fine. Happy with that. Scope rail on the side. I don't know if I mentioned that. I wish Palmetto would offer these without scope rails on the side also. I'm sure they're pulling their hair out when they hear this, because they offer so many different models already. But it would be nice if they would have offered it without a scope rail. I would like that, but scope rail's fine. A lot of you are going to want a scope rail. There it is. Also, it's got X and Y stampings for the fire control pins. It's a neat little addition. They didn't have to do that, but that's good. Let's tear into it real quick and let's see. So the rear, I don't know what you would call this, the guide spring rod retainer is, it's got a notch in it. That makes it a little more difficult to take apart sometime, but it doesn't, it keeps it from coming apart when you don't want it to. And that's really designed for things like when you're firing rifle grenades out of it or using a grenade launcher. But it'll go. Not sure if I mentioned this, but we've got flat dust cover. That's correct for some 101s, so it's fine that they gave it. I'm going to replace it with a ribbed one because what I want to do is I want to make this look like a 74 from the Afghan war. But some of you may like that, and it's heavy. It's hard to bend, so that's going to be a good durable dust cover. I also fitted a Romanian dust cover, no, a Polish dust cover to this just to see if it fit. It fit fine. So this stuff is within spec. PSA is doing a good job on that. Regular recoil spring. Everything looks normal there. Let's talk about another pleasant surprise that I had. Look inside here. A lot of these I found did not have braided hammer springs. This does. Braided hammer spring inside there. That's fantastic. One less thing I have to replace because I'm kind of a purist. Everything looks good. Everything's nice and smooth. Bolt carrier is forged. It's not necessary, but okay, thanks PSA. Trunnion is forged, made by Toolcraft, thanks PSA. And the bolt is also forged, made by Toolcraft. Take this out. Am I struggling? There we go. Looks good, everything looks clean. Extractor looks good. It's marked 5.56 on the bolt. I'm looking at it. I know you guys want to look at it. If you can see that right there. 5.56 on the bolt. And it's got, it's serialized to the gun, and it's got the little Toolcraft logo, so you know that it's Toolcraft. This is cool if you're cleaning several guns at once. Makes them easy to keep apart. Toolcraft logo on the side of the carrier. Again, the carrier's forged, which is probably better than any carrier on any AK ever, because I don't know that any other country ever actually forged them. It's just not necessary. I'm betting that this piston head is stainless. Typically, they're chrome plated through Comblock countries, but I'm betting this one's stainless, and it looks good. And then it's got a rivet here, and it has a little bit of play, which we want. That's a good thing. If you've got one that doesn't have any play, that can actually cause problems. So it's got a little bit of play there. Good to go. Take off the gas tube. Did you guys see that? Did I need a hammer? No, it just came right off. That was good. Gas tube was dirty on the inside when I got it. I cleaned it. It was dirty because, again, this thing had been test fired. But everything looks normal there. No problems. Fits well. You can see inside the lower handguard here the heat shield that they've got. Stainless steel heat shield. And maybe we can look inside. Maybe we can look inside this gas block and see that it's not completely finished inside. So something to watch out for when you're cleaning it. There's some bare steel deep inside there. Not sure how well it came across camera or not, but whatever. Sling loop on the front, standard handguard retainer. I'm curious, just how tight is that? It's tight. Probably need a screwdriver to bring that up. Of course, it's a brand new gun and I haven't removed it yet. So we'll get into that when we go to change out the handguard. Is there anything else that I'm failing to tell you guys about this? Okay, we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. There's some problems that these PSAs have had through other owners, and that is that the extractor on the bolt is hitting a little notch that's machined into the bolt face here. I'm not sure if you can see that notch. It's going to be on the right side of the bolt face. That extractor, when the bolt comes in and turns to lock, it can impact the shoulder on that machine mark on the bolt face. Now, I've got a Polish-made 5.56 gun, and that shoulder on the bolt face is cut differently. And I think that that's an issue that Palmetto State Army is having a problem on this firearm. They should have copied what was already being done by other countries on their 5.56 guns rather than cutting it their own way. This one is almost straight across. The machine mark on the, let's look at this. Yeah, so this one's almost, it's like at a 45 angle downward. and the machine mark on the other 5.56 guns are much lower and come straight across. And I think that just gives the extractor more room to play and to move so that they don't impact one another. When these impact one another, that causes problems. Obviously, there could be extraction problems. There could be possible feeding problems, bolt lockup problems, etc. I haven't had that problem on this one because I haven't put a round through it, and I may not. I don't believe everybody has that problem, but it is a problem that a few other owners of the 101s from Palmetto State Armory have documented, and it's something that we're going to watch on this one. Once I can get a few hundred rounds through it, we'll come back and look at it and see if there's any issues. Real quick, guys, I realized when I finished filming the previous part of the video, there were a couple of things that I wanted to cover that I forgot to cover. And as you can tell, we've got some new furniture on here. We started already changing out parts. I'm going to do a whole separate video on that next of all the little modifications I've done to bring this rifle a little closer to that Soviet envision that I had in the beginning, the whole reason that I got it. But let's talk about rivets. This is something that became an issue back when people started first building AKs. And it was because people didn't know how to put rivets in metal and they did it wrong. Even to the point of sometimes there were things called screw builds where people didn't even put rivets in, they put screws in. But we're sort of beyond all of that now. And I will tell you that these rivets look great. I was an aircraft mechanic for about 10 years. I shot hundreds of thousands of rivets, and every rivet that I put in a piece of metal had to be inspected. And I learned pretty quickly how to do them and how to do them correctly. So let's talk about these. So there are different components of a rivet, but today we just need to talk about two, the head and the butt tail. So the head is this round part that we normally see on the outside of the metal. And this would be just like on a screw where you would have a head of a screw. This part is preformed and you just don't want it to be deformed while you're putting it in. These look great. They're even. There's no space underneath them on any of them. They all look fantastic. Every single one of them. Now, the back side of the rivet is what's called a butt tail. And as that rivet is hammered down or squeezed down, the shaft of that rivet swells. And on the outside of the metal, it swells to the point that it makes its own head from being swollen. And that's what pinches two pieces of metal together. Let's see if we can get in here and have a look at those. I'm going to bring my flashlight out. I hope this isn't too bright. But let's look at some of these. See if we can see a rivet head. Oh, there's one right there on that trunnion, right there behind the safety selector. So there's a safety selector moving. That right there is a butt tail. It sure is shallow to me. And compared to most European rivets, that is a very shallow bucktail. By shallow, I mean it's not bend, it's not very fat around. Now, I have no doubt that it will hold. And it's not just that one. It's all of them. All of them to me. There's another one. If we can get inside here. Right, there's one. Appears to be very shallow. Now, I have no doubt it will hold. I've not heard of any complaints at all. Look at this trunnion. Look how shallow. Look how flat that is. That trunnion rivet right there. I've not heard any complaints of anybody having any problems with rivets on any of the PSA guns, but they sure are shallow. Here's another one we can look at. Look how flat that is. To me, it almost looks as if the rivets could have been just a little bit longer before they squeezed those in. But it's the only issue that I've got, and it's not even an issue because, again, obviously they're not coming apart. They seem to be holding up just fine. I've not seen any reports of rivets coming apart or anything like that. So I'm going to call it good, but it's just one of the things that I just wanted to point out for you guys that I noticed because I know some of you guys will be asking about rivets. And secondly, I noticed this. I'm getting ready to replace this. What they did is, in order to hold this sight detent in place, and what this sight detent or front sight detent does is it keeps the muzzle brake, which here's a real Russian one. It's got this little notch in it here. It keeps it from spinning off as the gun is being fired. It holds it in place. And behind here is you have a rod, and then you have a spring. And this little roll pin holds it all together. At least it's a roll pin on the PSA guns. The actual pin on Russian, Bulgarian, etc., AK-74s is a solid metal pin. Hopefully you guys can see that. It's got a head on one side that goes on the left side of the rifle. Then it goes through there, and then you've got this little indentation here. This, once this is installed, is flared out, sort of like a bucktail on a rivet, flared out and holds it in place. This is not a big deal. I have no doubt that the roll pin will last 1,000 years. It will be fine. No one will ever have a problem with it. It's just one of those things that I noticed is incorrect to be historically accurate for a Russian AK-74. This pin was cheap. I bought it from Arsenal. I'm going to put it in here in a few minutes, but I just wanted to show you guys one of the differences that I noticed. Again, if you're just buying the gun to shoot or just to have, you're not going to know. You're not going to care. It's going to be great. But for me, it's one of those little things that I thought, hey, you know, I like tinkering with these. I'll change it out just for fun and have the correct solid pin in there. And lastly, guys, remember how we talked about this cleaning rod not wanting to go in with those plastic hand guards that PSA shipped the rifle with? Well, I fixed that problem. All I had to do was put a set of Russian hand guards on it. And now it goes in and out just fine, just like you would expect it to. So the good news is that there's not a problem with the receiver or any other metal contact parts that the cleaning rod comes in contact with. It was just something inside the hand guards, and it could have been a one-off for the one that I had, or I don't know if they're all like that. You know, you guys can post in the comments below and let me know if you have a hard time getting your cleaning rod in and out also. But with a set of Russian hand guards, fix the alignment issue, everything works fine now.